everybody, it's Eric Poppinfus. It's Friday, so it must be a buy day. And today, Kathy, we have a light-hearted buy day.
Exciting.
You know why? We've done a lot of serious ones lately, but you know what today's topic is?
What's that?
Rats!
Oh, no.
Why rats? Well, because a beautiful book about rats came in and a not-so-beautiful book about rats came into the store, and I thought, you know, nothing reminds me more about Fawlty Towers than Manuel and his pet rats. So we're going to discuss rats, which were actually extremely important in the sort of early modern and Victorian era. So here we go. Rats it is. And I'm going to give you the choice, Kathy. Would you like to start with the very beautiful book on rats or the not so beautiful book on rats?
Absolutely beautiful book.
Okay, we're going to start with the beautiful book on rats. It is perhaps the most beautiful book on rats that we have in the whole store, and it is a gorgeous illustrated English arts and craft version of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, as written and retold by Robert Browning. Now, the Pied Piper is sort of an ancient German legend. I'll walk you through the story a little bit, but do you see what is on the cover of this book?
Absolutely beautiful.
Do you see all the rats running playfully around the tulips and the other designs? Have you ever seen a beautiful arts and craft book design with rats in it? Well, now you have. And these rats were designed by Harry Quilter, who is a very interesting book designer from the period, I have to say. And this book was published in a deluxe version, you know, which was much larger. But I think this beautiful little handheld pocket version is almost more charming. Now, in addition to the cover, Quilter decorated every single interior page with a just gorgeous, reminds you a bit of William Morris or anyone else from the period, basically of vignettes sort of telling the story of the Pied Piper. Are you familiar with the story of the Pied Piper?
Yes.
All right. Well, just in case somebody who is watching is not, the town is infested with rats, and as towns would be in this period, and so they call the rat catcher. They have a special rat catcher, though, in this part of Germany. He is the Pied Piper, and his expertise is in playing the pipe and luring the rats away. So there he is singing, and there are the rats jumping. And I just like the contrast between these gorgeous decorations. I mean, you have flowers, and you have, you know, unicorns and all sorts of things, and then you have rats, and they can in fact be beautiful. Anyhow, he calls the rats away, and he gets rid of the rats from the town. I think maybe they are drowning there in the river. I can't quite tell, but there they go. Goodbye, rats. Everybody celebrates. They're all good. But unfortunately, the townspeople decide to welch, and they refuse to pay the Pied Piper. And that was not a good choice, because the Pied Piper comes back and says, okay, you won't pay me for my rats? Well, then I'm going to come play my pipe, and I'm going to lure all your children away. So here he is. He's come back to the town. He's luring the children away. And there they go into the forest. Wait, where are all the children? And then basically in the end, the children are gone. So a stark moral by Browning and his illustrator, but one that basically, I don't know, be honest, honor your debts. But let me tell you a little bit more about Quilter. Quilter was sort of the anti-Whistler. And they really hated each other. You know, Whistler is famous during this period for really talking about art for art's sake and being one of the founders of tonalism. He didn't really believe in narrative structure. He didn't think art should be used like this, right? To tell a story or, you know, to be linear in any way. He just wanted impressions. And, well, Quilter was an art critic too, and he wrote, and he basically just completely panned Whistler in the press, said he was absolutely the worst. And Whistler hated him, and they got into such a blood feud that Whistler was a tricky guy. And he also sued Ruskin for libel at one point, and he ends up losing all his money, and he's forced to sell his house, Whistler is. And guess what happens when he goes bankrupt and has to sell his house?
What's that?
Quilter buys it and then redecorates the whole thing just to spite Whistler. So quite a character, quite a story. And yes, I told you rats could be beautiful, and that is a beautiful book on rats.
It is.
Now, I promised you a less beautiful book on rats, but one which is equally important because this is really an early British history of the rat catcher.
Oh, interesting.
Now, of course, we know that rats today, we know that rats could, spread things like plague, but even at the time, rats were seen as sort of filthy creatures that could wallow in disease and needed to be gotten rid of. So you would, in fact, call a rat catcher. And if you needed to call a rat catcher, you probably would want to call somebody who was well read and could resort to the Universal Directory for rat catching to design his rat traps. And I like this book because it talks about how you can use more or less a mouse trap if you're trying to get other types of vermin. But if you're looking for a rat, you needed much more elaborate traps because, rats are smart. And so you needed all these very interesting traps that would lure the rat in, with food and then capture the rat, and then you can get rid of the rat. By the way, I find so this book is published in, right before the American Revolution, mid-18th century, he's king at this time, right? King George. This book goes out of its way to talk about rats should be called the Norway rats. Look at this, Kathy. And do you know why that was?
No.
This is really actually pretty interesting. Let's see if we can get to the section on the Norway rat. It is because at the time, rats were actually called Hanover rats.
Oh.
And so the book is trying to reform the discussion of rats to call them, they actually came from Norway and had no relation to the House of Hanover, which of course was the ruling monarch. So we didn't want to conflate King George with rats. Isn't that sort of cool? Anyhow, this is a really interesting book. It's filled with interesting descriptions from the 18th century, and a rat catcher was a real deal. When we get all the way up into the 20th century, you have late 18th Victorian times. You have Mayhew and his studies of the urban poor.
Right.
Well, the rat catcher always featured prominently. Okay, now we are going to end with another story in case you haven't had enough rat stories for the day. And for that, I want to take you to another Victorian gift book.
Oh, good.
Now, do you remember, Kathy, when I was discussing gift books and the content of gift books, and I had all sorts of interesting gift books? Well, you can go back and see that multi-part series. But one of the things that you learned, I hope, with gift books and that everybody enjoyed is that they could be really beautiful tokens of affection. They were often given, as gifts for the New Year's or the holidays. And this is a beautiful gift book. And this is called The Book of Beauty. And it is otherwise a very beautiful book. And if you flip through it, you're going to see interesting plates of beautiful women and families and just all sorts of gorgeous things that would be appropriate, would they not, for a book called The Book of Beauty?
Absolutely.
Yes, and there's man's best friend, the dog. Okay. Well, gift books also had this sort of, I don't know if it was ironic or humorous side, but they always like to mix in a little bit of stories that you wouldn't expect. And I'm going to give Haley, our book catalog, credit because she was actually reading some of the stories in the Book of Beauty when she came to her favorite story called The Rat Tower. Now, again, this is the Book of Beauty, but let me tell you the story of the Rat Tower. And the whole Book of Beauty leads up to this story. This is the final story in the book. This is the conclusion of the book. Now, there's an archbishop in Germany, Kathy, and he controlled the grain supply for this valley in the Rhine. And the peasants were starving because the harvest hadn't been great, and they went to the archbishop and they begged him for food. And the archbishop said, "No, I'm not giving you any food. I need all the food for myself." And they kept begging and they kept begging, and he finally said, "Okay, come to my barn tomorrow, and I'll give you some grain. Just everybody come." And the townspeople eventually came into the barn. They were there for the grain, and do you know what the archbishop did?
What?
Well, he decided to lock them in the barn and set the barn on fire,
Oh, no.
killing everybody,
Oh, no.
and saying, "Oh, well, not to worry," because he had now rid the town of rats, meaning these poor peasants who were just starving.
Oh, no.
Do you think that was a wise thing to do? No, of course it wasn't, because in the rat tower, do you know what happens next?
No.
The rats rise up,
Oh.
and they not only go to the barn and eat all the grain of the archbishop, but they start chasing the archbishop, and the archbishop has to take a boat to a remote island where he climbs to the top of his tower to protect himself from the rats. But the rats swim across the river, go up the tower, and eventually eat the archbishop alive.
no.
And that is the story of Rat Tower, which concludes the gift book, The Book
so
of
funny.
Beauty. So everybody had an interesting relationship with rats during our time of publishing. All right, we're going to end with a funny book, and we'll end with a funny clip.
Okay.
We can't do this without Basil the Rat, but in order to understand Basil the Rat, you have to also understand that rats make great pets.
Oh,
And they make even better pets, according to the author, than cats or dogs. She's tried them all, but she really thinks rats are the best. And the key for rats is you have to train them with food. So don't be afraid of these rats, but you train your rats and they'll make great pets. Manuel certainly understood that, but Basil did not. So how about a little clip from Fawlty Towers, my favorite television show?
What is that? It's my hamster. Pigeon. Hamster? Sissy. No, pigeon. Man, what, it's a rat. Pigeon. It's a rat. No, it's hamster. Well, of course it's a rat. You have rats in Spain, don't you? Or did Franco have them all shot? It's hamster. It's a rat. No, I think so too. What? I say to man in shop, it's a rat. He say, no, it's a special kind of hamster. It's filigree Siberian hamster. Only one in shop. He makes special price, only £5. Have you ever heard of the bubonic plague, Manuel? It was very popular here at one time. A lot of pedigree hamsters came over on ships from Siberia. What do you do? I'm sorry, Manuel, this is a rat. No, it's hamster. He's not hamster. Hamsters are small and cuddly. Cuddle this, you'd never play the guitar again. Where do you go? Where do you take him? I'm sorry, Manuel, he's got to go. Go? No. Yes. He mind he stay with me? Now, look, this is a hotel. The health inspector comes tomorrow. If he sees this, I close down. No warning. Close down. Finito. You out of work. Back to Barcelona. He know her. He in cage. He's safe. Please. What's the matter? He take my hamster. Please, no, Mr. Fawlty.
Mr. Fawlty.
I love him. He take it from my room.
Oh, there. Never mind, it'll be all right. You will give it in our room. Yes, that's right. We'll keep it in our room, Mr. Fawlty. We'll look after it. A rat!
Siberian hamster. Filigree.
Well, that'll do it for another edition of Buy Day Friday. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll watch next Friday at noon and every Friday at noon for more adventures in the world of books.